Hey, 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 welcome back to Stop It. I'm your host, Emily Erb. And whoo, summer is officially here. And I am not 100% sure what episodes are going to look like this summer. I have a few that I have previously recorded during the year with some fantastic guests. So they will be coming out. But I'm not quite sure how many I'm going to be doing this summer solo because one, I want to really enjoy my summer with the kids. And because I know that there's going to be a time that my kids are not going to want to hang out with me during the summer. And so there is definitely some intention behind it for sure. I'm still just gonna see how the summer unfolds. And so, yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. Either way, I am gonna be around. You can catch me on my socials at M's Empowerment Coaching. And yeah, we're just gonna kind of see how it goes. And if I can get some episodes recorded, I will. And if it just doesn't feel right, I'm going to give myself permission to take a break and resume it back in the fall when my kids are back in school and there's a little less chaos. I was actually talking to one of my students. I saw her at the gym this morning and we're talking about the kids being at home. And I told her, I'm like, you'll probably hear some recordings of, my puppy barking in the background and kids because we are the house that kids tend to gravitate towards, which that has been something that I've been, wanting for my kids because I loved having friends in the neighborhood. And sometimes it can feel really overwhelming and a little overstimulating. And so, yeah, I'm preparing for that as well, setting some boundaries for myself and for the kids, and gonna just kind of test some things out and see what feels good, what lands, and what doesn't, and what adjustments we need to make throughout the summer to make it fun, and also not so chaotic. So, but with that said, I really wanted to talk about something that I feel really called to share. And it's something that was so prevalent in my life for so long in so many different areas. And I read it in one of the books that I'm reading. And now I'm drawing a blank. It's The Leader Without to Lead. A Leader Without a Title. That's the book I'm currently reading with Robin Sharma. He is the author of the 5 a.m. Club. Recommend that book, 10 out of 10. And I saw this sentence in there that just really stuck out to me. And he said, what you avoid will always control you. And I'm always here for self reflection because then it allows myself to just take a look and to be open and honest with myself with where I'm at. And it allows me to see how I can make improvements in my life. And I've since worked on having shame and punishing myself for the lessons that I'm receiving, where I see it as just an opportunity to grow and to expand. And when I'm growing and expanding, I am living life to the fullest. And I feel so good and I feel so alive. And it's the law of the universe. It's either things are living or things are dying, right? And I want to be the person who's living, who's expanding, who is allowing for growth to happen. And I'm always looking at areas in my life of, okay, what's still controlling me? What still has this deep hold over me? What are things in my life that I'm avoiding? And that's one of the best questions you can ask yourself if you're listening to this thinking, what is still controlling me? A great question you can ask yourself is, what still feels really scary to you? What are things that you continue to avoid, even though you know that by taking a look in this area of your life, that it's really going to serve you. And there was a couple areas in my life, most recently, what I was avoiding that kept controlling me was my relationship with money. And I remember thinking a couple years ago, this is actually one of the reasons why I started my business. There's multiple reasons why I started my business. The very original one, it was like this after I had my kids, and I remember actually my first son, Henry, and I remember holding him for the first time. And I just, one of the thoughts that came to my mind was like, oh my word, not every child is going to be loved in the capacity that they should be. And I just felt this strong urge because I've always had a love for children ever since I was a child. And I always felt a very strong calling to serve them because they are our future, right? Like that, you can't dispute. Our children are our future. And if we want a really bright future, we have to invest in our kids. And so after I became a mom, there was something that shifted in me that I was like, you know what? How can I help children? How can I really serve them? I can serve their moms and I can help women feel empowered in their life. And so that's really where it first started for me. And then I was moving through and figuring out what that looks like, how I can serve women and have them step into their power and feel empowered in their life. I also was realizing where I was working at. I was like, well, there's no like moving up for me. I mean, I guess there was. That was a limiting belief, but in the capacity that I would want, that I would feel fulfilled in, because I always needed a job that I felt fulfilled in. Because I thought, well, if I'm going to be spending time away from my family and I'm going to be working, right? I have to bring in money. I want meaningful work. And so I remember talking to a friend of mine, and they suggested doing like a side hustle because I was recognizing like I wanted to make more money. And because to the point that I'm making, I know sometimes I ramble a little bit, but to the point that I was making, as I was like, there has to be another way. Like there has to be a better way. I felt just like this very uncomfortableness around money and, asking for money, and receiving money. And so that really was a turning point for me where I was like, okay, I need to figure this out because I can't keep living this way of money just feeling like it always controlled me, right? And how I felt just really uncomfortable with it. And so, ouch, Marty, sorry, my puppy is driving me crazy this morning. And sit, Marty, good boy. Lay down, down. Okay. This is, I mean, my kids aren't even home yet. And this is like why my podcast might be on pause for a little bit. And I guess I could have put him in the crate. But anyways, so I decided that I needed to look at my money story, look at the beliefs that I had around money, because if I kept avoiding it because it felt uncomfortable for me, because I was assigning meaning to the meaning that I was assigning to the number of my bank account, the amount that I was making. And I knew that if I kept avoiding looking at this and working on my relationship with money, it was going to continue to control me. And I very much value freedom. That is one of my top values. That makes sense why I decided to create my own business, because I was like, there's not opportunities that were available to me. So I'm going to make my own. And because I value freedom, I love freedom. It's why I used macro counting to have freedom with food. And I just very much value it. And so I recognize that like, okay, I need to take a closer look at this. This is coming up for me for a reason, and I want freedom from it. And so I need to stop avoiding it. And my point to this is that I see this a lot with my students when they first enter my world. And I find that they have a huge resistance to looking at the data, where I teach women how to take their power back and how to, instead of following a set of rigid rules of eat this, don't eat this, just have more motivation, just dig deeper, and just following these very black and white rules, I teach women to actually unlearn all of those rules, which is very uncomfortable for them. But I teach them how to actually eat for their body, and I teach them how to create their own rules. And what I've recognized over the last couple of years is that is very uncomfortable for a lot of women because of what meaning they assign to the foods that they're eating and to the numbers they're seeing as they're collecting the data. And when you keep avoiding looking at that, when you keep avoiding looking at the data, looking at the numbers, it will always control you. It's just like your relationship with the scale. Everyone has a relationship with the scale, whether you have a scale or not. I thought that I didn't have a relationship with the scale because I chose not to have one. I was like, this scale isn't going to own me. But it actually still was, because when I started collecting data to see feedback from my body, and I would step on the scale, I would make the number mean something. So the scale actually still had ownership over me. It still was controlling me because I was avoiding it. I was avoiding seeing certain numbers because if I saw a certain number, it was either a good day or a bad day. It meant something about me. And the thing is that if you keep avoiding, and I understand everyone has their own relationship with and own experiences when it comes to their relationship with food, their relationship with their body, their relationship with the scale. I understand that, and I have a lot of compassion for that. And at the same time, if you keep avoiding looking at those data points, it will still control you. It will still own you. Even if you're like, I don't have a scale. It doesn't own me. Well, actually, yes, it still does. Or if you're just like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to eat whatever, or I'm just going to eat healthy and just not look at what I'm actually eating, it still has control over you. Do you actually have freedom in that? Is there actual freedom when you're just like, F it? And you're like, well, I don't need to look at it. And I understand, that it's scary. It is scary to look at food you're eating or collect the data to see how your body is responding, right? Because we're so used to having these black and white rules. And it is really uncomfortable to do things differently, right? When we're so used to being told, okay, well, these are the foods that you should be eating, and then these are the foods you shouldn't be eating. It's so black and white. Like, and we think that that's actually easier. And the only reason it's easier is because it's familiar, because that's what most women have been taught to do their whole lives. They've been given a set of rules to follow. And then when you have me come in and pretty much tell you, like, no, we're going to unlearn a lot of this stuff, and you're going to actually create your own rules that will actually work for you, that will fit into your life so you can get lasting results and improve your relationship with food and your body. Of course, there's going to be resistance. Of course, my students are going to be like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, their ego, their brain, the ego part of their brain that is meant to keep them safe is going to be like, red flag, red flag, red flag. This is not safe. This is uncomfortable. Well, of course it is, because it's doing something completely new and completely different. And it's such an illusion. It's such an illusion what we receive from diet culture, because it's like, okay, yeah, here are these rules, eat this, don't eat that. But is it actually easier? Is it? Because I want you to really think about that. I want you to do some self-reflection here. It's the best tool you can ever utilize for yourself, is to be honest with yourself and say, well, is it actually easier? Is it easier for me to follow these black and white rules, follow rules that someone else is giving me? And that also includes if you're getting meal plans from people, right? Or if you're paying for meal plans of telling you what to eat, how much to eat, is that actually easier in the long run? Because I want you to start to think about when you're in situations where you're following someone else's plan, you're relying on someone to tell you what to do or what rules that you should create for yourself. What happens when you go on vacation? What happens when your hubby wants to do a date night out? What happens when you have a birthday party you're going to, or a girls' night out, or your kid's birthday party, right? What happens then when you're following someone else's rules, when you're following their plan? Is there really freedom in that? And you are the only one who can decide that. For me, no, that would not be freedom. Personally, that would not be freedom. If I'm following someone else's plans and then I have to choose between I either follow their plan and feel like I'm missing out on things, right? Because if I'm at my kid's birthday party and someone told me this is the food that I need to eat or these are the foods that I need to avoid, and the food that's available is not part of my plan, I'm going to feel like I either have to be on my plan or off my plan. And then when I decide, okay, I'll stay on my plan, on someone else's plan, then I'm going to feel like resentment. I'm going to feel a lack of freedom. I'm going to feel frustration. I'm going to feel FOMO, right? Is that freedom? Is that actually easier? And then if you decide to say, F it, like I want what I want and I want to do the things that I want, how do you feel then when you go off your plan? Right? What story are you telling yourself that you decide to go off the plan? And so, why it's so important for me to, I think my puppy needs out here for a second. Oh my goodness. This puppy is driving me crazy. That's on me though. I should have really just put him in his crate. I am trying to practice giving him a little bit more freedom. But I'm realizing he is just not there yet, and that's okay. And had to do a little bit of deep breathing to work through that. But I really just want you to start to think about that. Like, what do you really want? And doing similar things that you've done, staying in your comfort zone, right? Like, is there really freedom in that? And one of the things that I love to ask myself, or when I am falling into like, this doesn't feel right. I'm definitely avoiding some things. And if I take a look at like, is this something that everyone else is doing? And I find that whenever I see trends that are going on, that like the masses are doing, like everyone's doing this, everyone's doing that. What I found is that when I do the complete opposite, it's actually serving me so much better. And I don't even know why I shared that. That just popped in my head. But that actually has really helped me in a lot of ways when I'm looking at, okay, what are some of the things that I'm avoiding? And if I find like this is a trend, like people are avoiding this too, it's like, oh, okay, then I need to actually stop avoiding it because I don't want it to control me anymore. And I felt that way actually with food for a really, really long time. So, it was one of those things where I didn't really I wanted goals. I wanted to feel good in my body. I definitely wanted to see fat loss. And one of the things that I kept avoiding was actually looking at what I was eating. And I would mask that in, well, I'm just going to eat healthier. I'm just going to eat healthier. I'm just going to say no. I'm going to say no to sugar because I know I have an unhealthy relationship with sugar. I'll just say no to sugar. And as I kept avoiding my relationship with sugar, as I kept avoiding my relationship with food by masking it with, well, I'm just going to eat healthier, it kept controlling me, right? Like when I was told, oh, just, cut back sugar, eat nature's candy, which was the worst advice ever. Um, I recognized that it controlled me even more. And I want you to start to think about that, especially, I know a lot of women that I work with, they have a hard relationship with food in general. Sometimes it's with sugar, sometimes it's with carbs. There's normally some unhealthy relationship they have going on with certain foods. And it's like, well, when we just keep avoiding it and we don't actually take a look at what's underneath the surface, it still tends to own us. And so when I was like, okay, I do not want sugar to own me anymore. And I'm going to experiment with this. And I'm going to, because I learned this awesome tool of macro counting, where it just is teaching me like food awareness to see how much I'm eating. And then I'm then from seeing where I'm at and how much I'm eating, I was able to create a calorie deficit so I could see fat loss. That's science, guys. And I was able to, I want to experiment. I'm like, okay, well, I want to see if I can still have a treat every day and still see fat loss. And so I started to take a look at it and I had a treat every day. And it was really uncomfortable for me. There was a lot of uncertainty around it. There was a lot of fear that was coming up for me because I didn't, every time that I've lost weight before, I never included sugar because I realized that like if I had it, I would overeat it. And so it was really uncomfortable for me. And I'm so glad that I allowed myself to take a look at my relationship with sugar because I now have a really beautiful relationship with sugar. Do I ever overeat it at times? You bet I friggin' do. My sister made bomb scotcheroos. It's like my favorite dessert. And I totally ate more than like a portion size that would be more reasonable, but I was intentional with it. And I didn't let it then ruin and create this belief that I just ruined all of my progress from the last couple of years. It was one of those things that, like, yeah, I'm choosing to eat this, not because I shouldn't or not because I can't. I'm choosing to eat this because I really like these scotcheroos. And I know that I'm eating a larger portion and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that because right now I'm in maintenance and there's so much freedom in that. And tomorrow on Monday, I am going to just continue moving forward and, going into my routine. And there was no like guilt and shame or feeling like I did something wrong because I've been putting the reps in these last couple of years of training my nervous system to say it is okay to have sugar and it is okay to have it in an amount that feels good for you without overindulging it. And if it wasn't for me putting in those reps, doing that uncomfortable step of just starting to include it in my plan, part of my plan, I would have never gotten to a point where the old version of me would have eaten all of those scotcheroos. And then I would have just kept on going of just like binging all of my sweets and just saying, F it, whatever. I just ruined everything. I'll just start over next week. And so I want you to start to look at some of the things that you are avoiding and some of the things that you feel like, you know what, this actually isn't the easy way because when I keep choosing the easy way, and for me, the easy way was just like, I'm just going to give up sugar. I'm just going to say no. I'm just going to double down on my workouts because that's what used to work for me before. And that's pretty much like what all these other people are doing. Right. And I just realized I'm like, okay, well, this isn't actually serving me. And I'm going to just take a different approach to this. I'm going to take a different look into seeing what's actually coming up for me. And so because I just didn't want food to control me anymore. I wanted to be able to be present with my family, with my kids, and not be eating my ice cream because we went out to ice cream. And the whole time I'm thinking I shouldn't be eating this or that this is going to ruin all of my progress, right? Like I wanted to be fully present and have conversations with my family and not let it control me. And so I invite all of you, if you and you might have a really beautiful relationship with food already and you've put in that inner work. And that is fantastic. I love that so much for you. And if you're some of my students that are listening now that you're like, yeah, I put the work in. Yeah, you did. I love that for you. And maybe this, even if you are still in progress and you're still putting this work in, maybe this is a great reminder for you, right? And if you're just recognizing, like, oh, wow, like I have kept avoiding this, I kept avoiding looking at my relationship with food. I didn't even know I had an unhealthy relationship with food. I didn't even know food was actually really controlling my life. Like, I didn't realize how much ownership food had over me, and you want to create change with that. A really great place to start is just take a look and one of the areas that you're feeling like it has control over you. And maybe that is with sugar, like it was for me, or maybe that's with carbohydrates, or maybe that's with weekends, right? Like you really struggle with the weekends. Like you're really great during the week, and then the weekends are just like a free for all. And you're like, this doesn't feel good. And this doesn't really feel like this is serving me. You can start to take a look to see what's coming up for you. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love helping women start to get to the root of what's driving their decisions. How are they deciding on the choices that they're making? Because at the end of the day, with my students and with you, it's like, I don't really care what decision you make. What I care more about is how you made your decision. Because there you can have two different people that make the exact same decision, but they can have a completely different outcome, a different result, and a different way of thinking on how they got there, right? Like I'll compare myself, old version of Emily, to the upgraded version of Emily. So, old version of Emily, when she is presented with an option of having scotcheroos, she would have been like, I shouldn't be eating these, even though I really want them, even though they're really tasty. I shouldn't be eating these, but I'm going to anyway. And then after I eat them, there's just like a lot of shame and guilt, and then thinking, oh my word, I just ruined all of my progress. Okay. Old version of Emily. Updated version of Emily sees these scotcheroos and she decides it's worth it. She really enjoys them, and she is going to choose to eat them. And she is going to choose to eat them out of want and desire, not out of fear. And she eats the scotcheroos. She knows that it is okay that she did that. There's no shame and there's no guilt. And she's not making it mean anything about her. And she's not creating this story belief that she just ruined all of her progress. Now, there could be another version of Emily where maybe Emily is in a fat loss phase. You know, she's in a cut and she has to decide if it's worth it to her and if she wants to be in alignment with her goals. And so she might see the scotcheroo and she might be like, you know what? I do love a scotcheroo. It is homemade. And I do want some, but I'm going to have a smaller portion of it. Not because I can't have a bigger portion, because I can. You always have a choice. But I'm choosing to have a smaller portion because I want it to be in alignment with my goals. And so she has a smaller portion. She doesn't feel restricted. She doesn't feel like she didn't have a choice. And she feels really good with herself, right? So you can see how there's different options and there's different ways of thinking. And that's what I love helping women do is to take their power back, make a decision out of want and desire, and own their choices and take back control. Stop giving their control away. Stop giving their power away. And so that's what I want for you. And I want you to start to, after you've listened to this, just come from a place of curiosity and compassion. Compassion is always going to serve you, and get curious around like what is controlling your life, what still has ownership over you, and where aren't you feeling freedom in? And be open and honest with yourself, right? Because if you're not honest with where you're at, that's delusion, right? And that's always going to create staying in the same place and staying stuck. And there's no judgment here, there's no shaming here. That's never going to create change. There's no place for blaming yourself. You are where you're at and you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. But you do need to have a level of honesty. And when you can do that, you can start to see what areas in your life are you feeling controlled over, and what areas in your life that you do want to create change in, because what you avoid will always control you. Last story here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. But what also used to control me was exercise. So I was more on like the opposite end with nutrition. I let myself off the hook a lot. I would restrict sugar for a little bit, but then like that just was too hard. And I let myself off the hook very easily with nutrition, but the exercise part, I was very disciplined. I actually very much over exercise. So, there's some women that have like a long history of restricted dieting. I had a long history of just obsessive workouts, obsessive running. And I recognized that I had a really unhealthy relationship with cardio, with running, because I had this belief that I just needed to keep running, and I needed to keep running long amounts of it so that I can either lose weight or maintain it. Very, very unhealthy. And I recognized what I avoid will still have power over me, will still control me. And so I had to take a deeper look into what relationship do I currently have with cardio and with exercise in general? And how can I take my power back? How can I create a healthier version or healthier relationship with it? And it was very uncomfortable. And it definitely took time. It took a lot of time for me to repair that relationship with cardio, to have a better relationship with it. And it was really uncomfortable. I had this belief that I had to always run like every day, and it always had to be 5 miles at least. And back in the day, I could do that. Like I had the time, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun pushing myself, seeing how far I could go. But then that belief kind of stuck with me, but then things changed and I'm like, well, I couldn't sustain that. And so I just had this really, really unhealthy relationship with it. And I decided to take a closer look and see how I could, instead of avoiding it, just be really open and honest with myself. And I started to question my beliefs around cardio, and are these beliefs really true? And I would test things out and I would experiment. It was really scary for me to experiment when I was coming out of a fat loss phase. We call that a cut in the macro world. And if that's like a trigger word for you, listen, I teach lifestyle macro counting. I'm a mom. I'm a busy mom. I don't have time for extremes. So we do very much lifestyle macro counting. I'm all about you eating the most amount that you can while getting your goals. Okay. And so when when I was working my way towards maintenance, and I was experimenting with, okay, I'm going to just like cut my cardio back. Oh, that was so scary, so uncomfortable. But I wanted to just see, like, it was my belief that I needed to run every day to maintain or to lose, right? And when I started to cut back my runs and I would look at the data, because I was collecting the data so I could get scientific feedback, not emotional feedback, I was like, oh my word, like that belief wasn't true. Like I could actually scale back my running and I could still maintain. Like I could still, hit my body goals, maintain my body goals. And it was just a really cool experience. And it was because I stopped avoiding. I stopped avoiding. And I started to take a look. And so now runs, I have so much freedom in them and I enjoy them so much more. And they don't have this like power over me anymore. And it was just because like I stopped avoiding it and I started to take a look. And so, anyways, my friends, I trust that this served you. This week, I'm super pumped because doors are officially open for my 8-week program, Get Lean and Strong Without Extremes. And so, if you have been on the fence, if you've been listening to me for a while, following me on socials, listening to my podcast, and you're like, I want what she's having, or I want what her students have, how they come out the other side of it and they have so much freedom, and it's so much more than just macro counting and learning that skill, because it's so much more about stepping into your power and feeling good in your body and building your self-esteem, building your self-worth, building that you are enough and you can want what you want. You never have to justify that. And also at the same time, having gratitude for where you're at. And it's just a whole program that I absolutely love teaching. I just wrapped up my program last week and or a couple weeks ago, and the growth that my students have had has been amazing. When I see them posting in the community and they're talking about like, yes, they're getting results, and they're also changing their relationship with food and their body, and they have so much more energy and they feel good. It just like, I mean, some of their posts I'm like so brought to tears because I'm just so excited to see that their growth is so much more than fat loss. And yes, that's a part of it. Of course, I want women to have their goals, right, and reach them. And it's just so much more. It's growth. It's a transformation from the inside out. And that, my friends, is what I absolutely love doing. And so if you are like, yes, I want this, I want to have a better relationship with food and my body and with exercise, and I want to get lasting results, and I just don't want to, I want to stop avoiding the things that I'm avoiding because I don't want it to have control over me anymore, then you, my friends, would be a perfect fit for my 8-week program, Get Lean and Strong Without Extremes. Yes, we are ditching the dietier mindset. We're ditching the extremes. We're ditching all the rigid rules. And I'm going to teach you how to create your own rules so that they fit into your life, so you know how to make adjustments, that you know how to get lasting results, and you can finally feel good in your body. And for most of the women I work with, it's like the first time that they actually feel good enough in their body. And so I would love to invite you in. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at Ems Empowerment Coaching. I'll put the link into the show notes to get some more information. And I would love to see you inside, because who knows? It could forever change the way you show up in your health and fitness journey. And how cool would that be? So, all right. I trust that this served you. I apologize for the disruption with Marty. Lesson learned. He's still just not there yet that I can let him roam while I'm recording. So, remember, life is always happening for you, my friends. And I can't wait to see you in next week's episode. I'll talk to you later. Bye.